I'd like to provide the American people with an update on our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election. If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we'll look into them very strongly. But a lot of votes came in late. I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech. As everybody saw, we won by historic numbers.
我还是创下许多历史的数字记录。
They got it knowingly wrong. We had polls that were so ridiculous, and everybody knew it at the time. There was no blue wave that they predicted. They thought there was going to be a big blue wave. That was false. It was done for
民主党以为会掀起一股蓝色浪潮，但是他们错了。
And it's been properly acknowledged, actually, by the media. They were, I think, very impressed. But that was after the fact. That doesn't do us any good. We kept the Senate despite having twice as many seats to defend as Democrats.
我们保障了参议院的所有席位。
Really, much more competitive states. We did a fantastic job with the Senate.
我们在许多州都得到了相当好的成果。
More seats to defend. They spent almost $200 million on Senate races in South Carolina and Kentucky alone.
民主党在参议院的选举上花了相当大笔的金钱。
At the national level, our opponents' major donors were Wall Street bankers and special interests.
民主党的赞助者包括了华尔街的富商们。
Yet, for the first time ever, we lost 0 races in the House. I was talking to Kevin
我们在众议院得到很好的选举结果。
0. And actually won many new seats. With, I think, many more on the way.
也赢得了很多新的席位。
This was also the year of the Republican woman. More Republican women were elected to Congress than
共和党有许多女性
great achievement.
也
I won the
入主
largest
了
share of
众议院。
non-white voters of any Republican in 60 years, including historic numbers of Latino, African American, Asian American, and Native American voters.
还有原住民的选票。
In our history.
这是史上最佳的记录。
Voters, the greatest turnout in Republican Party history. Democrats are the party of the big donors, the big media, the big tech.
民主党拥有
Republicans have become
许
the
多
party
金
of the
钱
American
资
worker,
源，
and that's
还有
what's
媒体
happened.
资源。
And we're also, I believe, the party of inclusion, as everyone now recognizes media polling was election interference in the truest sense of
如大家所知，媒体的民调试图阻挠选举。
These really phony polls, I have to call them phony polls, fake
这些
polls,
民
were
调都
designed
是
to keep our voters
假造
at
的，
home, create the illusion of momentum for
想要制造一些幻象，
and diminish Republicans' ability to raise funds. They were what's called suppression polls.
想要
Everyone
借
knows
此
that
来
now.
募资。
And it's never been used to the extent that it's been used on this last election. To highlight just a few examples, the day before election, Quinnipiac, which was wrong on every occasion that I know of,
据我
had
所
Joe
知，有许
Biden
多
up
的
by
状
5
况。
points in Florida.
拜
And
登
they
在
were
佛罗
off
里
by
达的
8
民调领先
4
5个百分点，
And I won Florida easily.
但我在佛州却轻易的胜利。
They had me losing Florida by a lot, and I ended up winning Florida by a lot. Other than
媒
that,
体
they
让
were
我
very
在
accurate.
佛州
They had
趋于劣势，但最
came
后
up
我却赢得
4
了胜
points in
利。
Ohio, and they were up by
在
12.
俄亥俄州，我原本
points.
落后4个百
And they
分点
also，won Ohio.
但最后我
Great
们
state
还
of
是赢得了
Ohio
俄亥俄
very
州的
easily.
选情，
The
相当
Washington
的
Post said Biden
轻易
up
的胜利。
17 points in Wisconsin, and it was basically even. They were up by about 17 points.
拜登原本在威斯康星州领先17个百分点。
Suppression. There are now only a few states yet to be decided in the presidential race. The voting apparatus of those states are run in all cases by Democrats. We were
在
winning
许多
in
州
all the key
选举的状
locations
况
by
都
a
是由
lot,
民主党
actually.
来掌握。
And then our numbers started miraculously getting whittled away
我们原本的选票都被追上。
Permissible observers, we went to court in a couple of instances, and we were able to get the observers put in. And when the observers got there, they wanted
派出观察员
60, 70 feet away, 80 feet,
来
100 feet away,
监
or
看
outside the building
这场
to
选举。
observe people inside the building. And we won a case, a big case, and we have others happening. There are lots of litigation, even beyond our litigation. There's tremendous amount of litigation generally because of how unfair this process was, and I predicted that. I've been talking about
这场选举是相当的不公平，有很多外力来介入。
It's really destroyed our system. It's a corrupt system.
这是一个腐败的系统。
Even if they aren't by nature, but they become corrupt. It's too easy. They want to find out how many votes they need, and then they seem to be able to find them. They wait and wait, and then they find them.
民主党似乎知道自己应该要得到多少张选票，而他们也达到了目的。
In North Carolina by a lot, tremendous number of votes.
在北卡州，他们得到了很多选票。
Because they're finding ballots all of a sudden. Oh, we have some mail-in ballots. It's amazing how those mail-in ballots are so one-sided too. I know that it's supposed to be to the advantage of the Democrats.
而邮寄选票为何是一面倒的偏向民主党？这也是很神奇的一件事情。
We were up by nearly 700,000 votes in Pennsylvania. I won Pennsylvania by a lot.
我们原本在宾州
And that gets whittled down to
赢过对方70万张选票。
And they'll keep coming and coming and coming.
但是民主党的选票却不断的涌进。
Although we won a court case, the judge said you have to have observers. Likewise in
虽然我
Georgia, and they're
们
appealing.
要叫停，但是法院要求我们派出观察员。
To watch, and we want observers, and they're actually appealing, which is sort of interesting. I wonder why they'd appeal.
他们却驳回了我们的申请，
As they do
觉得非常的奇怪。
vote tabulations. Likewise in Georgia, I won by a lot. 我
们在乔治亚州原本也赢过非常多选票。
300,000 votes on election night in Georgia, and by the way, got whittled down, and now it's getting to be to a point where I'll go from winning by a lot to perhaps being even down a little bit. In Georgia, a pipe burst in a faraway location, totally unrelated to the location of what was happening, and they stopped counting for 4 hours, and a lot of things happened.
在停止了4个小时的计票之后，发生了非常多的事情。
Margins of 300,000 in Michigan. We're way up in Michigan, won the state, and in Wisconsin we did likewise.
在密西根州和威斯康星州都发生了类似的情况，原本的领先都被追上。
To win Arizona, we only need to carry, I guess, 55% of the remaining vote, 55% margins, and that's a margin that we've significantly exceeded. So we'll see what happens with that, but we're on track to do okay.
我们会持续观察亚利桑那州的选情是如何的发展。我们要保障选举的公正，不会让腐败的方式来偷走我们的选举。
Anybody to silence our voters and manufacture results. I've been doing a lot of public things for a long time. I've never had anything that's been as inspirational by people calling, talking, sending things to us. I've never
我从来没有看过这样的状
such
况，
love and such affection and such
支持者
spirit as I've seen for
对我
this.
们的
People
支
know
持。
what's happening and they see what's happening and it's before their eyes. And there are many instances which will be reported very shortly. There's tremendous litigation going on, and this is a case where they're trying to steal an election. They're trying to rig an election, and we can't let that happen. Detroit and Philadelphia, known as two of the most corrupt political places anywhere in our country,
而
easily
宾州是最腐败
cannot
的
be
一个地方。
responsible for engineering the outcome of a presidential race, a very important
你要
presidential
制造
race in
出
Pennsylvania. Democrats
选
have
举的
gone
假象。
to the state Supreme Court to try and ban our election observers, and very strongly. Now, we won the case, but they're going forward. They don't want anybody in there. They don't want anybody watching them as they
而投开票所不希望有任何人进入来监看他们的开票状况。 我们也很怀疑为什么他们不愿意公开让人进入观察。很明显的，这是要制造选举舞弊。
Very far away, so far that people are using binoculars to try and see, and there's been tremendous.
我们的支持者只能从非常远的距离来观察这场选战。
So you can't see in, and the people that are banned are very unhappy and become somewhat violent.
被禁止在外的民众感到非常的不满。
In Georgia, the votes have been in by election day that they should be in by election day.
在乔治亚州，超过期限抵达的选票，还是被算入了计票当中。我相信民主党的官员也从来不相信他们可能会获得这几周的胜利。
That's why they mailed out tens of millions of unsolicited ballots without any verification measures whatsoever.
他们寄出了数十万张的选票，邮寄选票，导致了这样的状况发生。
A lot of different elections before they decided to go with this big, massive election with tens of millions of ballots going out to everybody. In many cases, totally unsolicited. This was unprecedented in American history.
在美国史上从来没有发生过的事情。
Claiming to care about the election security, they refused to include any requirement to verify signatures, identities, or even determine whether they're eligible or
选票的真实性。
People are walking in there; they have no idea. They just taking numbers. They're writing down things, the workers, and doing a lot of bad things. And we have a lot of information coming and litigation that you'll see.
我们得到了很多相关的资讯。
Even you people up, and you've seen it all. The officials overseeing the counting in Pennsylvania and other key states are all part of a corrupt Democrat machine that you've written about.
在宾州的计票过程可以看到，这是一个很腐败的过程。民主党的机器正在运作当中。
It hasn't changed a long time ago. Hasn't changed. It's gotten worse. In Pennsylvania, partisan Democrats have allowed ballots in the state to be received 3 days after the election.
甚至在选后3天，宾州还允许邮寄选票持续的寄到。
Postmarks or any identification whatsoever. So you don't have postmarks, you don't have identification.
上面也没有邮戳的凭证，也没有其他的认证可以证明。
The nation, our campaign has been denied access to observe any counting in Detroit.
选举幕僚也被拒绝在投票所的门外。
And I wouldn't say it has the best reputation for election integrity. Poll workers in Michigan were duplicating ballots, but when our observers attempted to challenge the activity, those poll workers jumped in front of the volunteers to block their view so that they couldn't see what they were doing.
甚至要把投开票所给封起来，不让外面的人看到内部的状况。
One major hub for counting ballots in Detroit covered up the windows again.
在底特律也有投开票所把窗子给封住。
And so they wanted to protect and block the counting area. They didn't want anybody seeing the counting.
他们不希望外界看到投开票所的内部状况。
In Detroit, there were hours of unexplained delay in delivering many of the votes for counting.
在底特律有非常多选票延迟的状况。
And even though the polls closed at 8 o'clock, so they brought it in.
在8点左右，投票所就已经封箱了。
We've also been denied access to observe in critical places in Georgia.
我们的观察员在乔治亚州许多重要的地方都没有办法进入。
For hours and hours on election night, with results withheld from major Democrat-run locations only to appear.
在民主党主政的地方。
Later. And they suddenly appeared, and they all had the name Biden on them, or just about all. I think almost all. They all had the name Biden on them, which is a little strange. I challenge Joe and every Democrat to clarify that they only want legal votes.
我要求拜登还有其他民主党的对手来澄清这样的状况。
We want every legal vote counted, and I want every legal vote counted.
我们希望所有合法的选票都能够被计算在内。
No mystery ballots, no illegal votes
不会有什么
being cast after election day.
神秘的选票在进入。
Election day, and the laws are very strong on that. You have an election day, And they don't want votes cast after Election Day, and they want the process to be an honest one. It's so important.
希望选举的过程都是诚实正直的。
And we want honest people working back there because it's a very important job. So that's
希望选务人员都是诚实的，因为这是一个非常重要的工作。
And we think we will win.
我相信我们会获得胜利。
There's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so mumuch evidence, so much proof.
因为我们有非常多的证据。
Perhaps at the highest court in the land, we'll see. But we think there'll be a lot of litigation because we can't have an election stolen like this.
但我们相信还会有更多介入的方式。
And I've said very strongly that mail-in ballots are going to end up being a disaster. Small elections were a disaster. Small, very easy to handle
邮寄选票是一场大灾难。
This is a large-scale version, and it's getting worse and worse every day. We're hearing
这样的状况一天一天的在恶化当中，简直就是恐怖故事。我们不能让这样的事情在美国发生。无论是拜登或是我，都不可以让这样的状况发生。这是国家的耻辱。我想我们会经过法律的程序来处理这样的状况。我们会找法官来判决。我没有办法忍受这样的状况，非常感谢大家。